Welcome, ladies and gents, to another episode of Brave Namibia, where we celebrate both ordinary and extraordinary Namibians. Our first clip today is an interview between Jana-Mari Smith and Maria Diekmann of the Rare and Endangered Species Trust. She has been working with pangolins and other vulnerable wildlife in Namibia for more than 20 years.
It's a passion, it's a calling, it's what you feel has to be done.
Maria Diekmann did not plan to become known for her work in rescuing, rehabilitating, and releasing some of Namibia's most threatened wildlife species, the pangolin.
I was actually a farmer's wife. So we have a cattle ranch, and life was going on with cows and goats and chickens and eggs and all of that kind of stuff.
But 2 decades later, as the founder of the Rare and Endangered Species Trust, REST, now renamed Rest Pangolins International, Maria has helped to dramatically raise awareness of the plight of Namibia's pangolin by sharing her experiences of trying to save pangolins and returning them to the wild.
Pangolins are a fascinating species. I got involved quite ironically because it had always been a species that we educated people about, but we didn't do a lot of hands-on work. And then we had a Chinese businessman in a local town contact us. He had bought a pangolin to try to save it off the black market. And that was our first hands-on pangolin. It's a very long story, but she eventually gave birth, and we were the first in the world to record a Cape pangolin birth. So, that was a whole adventure in itself. And I was there to observe and record her raising that pangolin, which was a world's first. They're very, very difficult to raise. And I think that's sort of what propelled our entry into the world of pangolins. And, then it snowballs because there was no one else really at the time. There was one gentleman who had done some research with pangolins. He was very field-oriented, very, very good, but didn't know a lot once the pangolins came in from the police or nature conservation, which is often what happens, and they're in very bad condition. So that's sort of how that whole process started. But pangolins worldwide are going through some major problems. They are considered the most illegally trafficked animal in the world. And quite honestly, I'll say that's a good thing, which is really surprising. Who wants their animal to be the most illegally trafficked animal in the world? But why I say that is because it propelled them into the media. The media jumped on that, and the headline was the most illegally trafficked animal in the world that's going to go extinct before we know anything about it. And that's where I give full kudos to the media. You guys are able to really, really reach millions of people with one article, with one television show, which we as conservationists aren't usually able to do. So that's been a good thing, although it's a bad thing. It's brought in funding, it's brought in attention, it's brought in research, it's brought in a lot of students, that type of thing. So pangolins worldwide are starting to become more known. I go to a conference now, and quite honestly, even those that are talking about legislation and penalties are talking about pangolins now. Whereas 10 years ago, if I mentioned a pangolin, everyone asked me why I was working with penguins in the middle of the desert. They didn't really know what a pangolin was. So I think that's been a really good transition. Unfortunately, we have a number of species that are on the brink of extinction. And it's no joke. Within a decade, so within our lifetimes, we're not talking about a generation anymore. We're not talking about our children or our grandchildren. We are talking about within our generation, even us older people, pangolins could go extinct. There's 4 Asian species, there's 4 African species, and the Asian species are on the brink of extinction, which has brought the Asian market into Africa. And Namibia is one of the countries that they're coming into, and they're taking them out. They're killing them. They can be found in holes if you look hard enough and deep enough, and dead or alive, they have value. And I think that's where a lot of the trafficking is coming from in Namibia. And it's going to be a huge, huge problem. It already is, but it's only going to get worse.
Maria, you're talking to me from Lagos in Nigeria. Can you tell me a little bit, what are you doing there currently? Who are you working with and why are you there?
Well, I had an amazing opportunity for the first time in Namibia in about 8 years. This year, I didn't have a pangolin under my care. So I've always had a pangolin under my care, which required total commitment for me to be in Namibia. I didn't take holidays. I didn't go anywhere because these penguins are so fragile that they need really systematic and the same person caring for them all the time. So I was in this situation. A call went out internationally that there's a gentleman, Mark Owaha, here in Nigeria. He had 5 baby pangolins and he was having difficulty raising them. Now, nobody in the world has ever raised 5 baby pangolins at the same time, in the same place, under the same circumstances, with the same person anywhere in the world. Those of us that have managed to raise a baby pangolin that survived have only done one at a time, and we've all had difficulty. It's a huge challenge. It's long term. You're with this pangolin for up to a year, sometimes 2 or 3 years, raising it and preparing it for release. So to have 5 of them, I immediately rushed over here. He is an amazing vet, but he was totally out of his element with these pangolins. And he literally, on the drive from the airport, said, "You are in charge. I will support you in any way I can. Do what you can." And our donors jumped in. We have some amazing donors at Rest, and that helped support and get milk for these babies and get care for these babies and the veterinarian treatment that we needed, because these babies have all come in off the black market. So here, bushmeat is a big thing. It's not so big in Namibia, but here the mothers are being eaten. The babies are small. They're not really valuable to the bushmeat market. So the babies are sort of all thrown into a box, and Mark is able to acquire them sometimes. And that's why we're getting such a high volume. So it's been an amazing. I've met some amazing people. We just now released a wild pangolin for a very high government official. So that's been really exciting, making a lot of inroads into the politics and the people of Nigeria. They're amazing. But more importantly, we've got these numbers of pangolins that in Namibia you'll never have. In South Africa, you'll never have. I can't think of another country where you'll have this volume of pangolins that you can actually start setting protocols. So when the diet affects either good or bad, 3 of your 5 pangolins, you're finding a trend. When your veterinarian care, because we've had 2 or 3 pangolins go down at the same time, and we've almost lost them. And we just don't know why, because there aren't this information of what to do and how to do it and why it's happening. So when that happens and you're able to bring all 3 of them back, you've started to set a protocol. And that's something you can share around the world. I'm already sharing it around the world with other people who haven't been successful. And we're getting ready to release the first of those 5 baby pangolins. We started in May, and they'll be released this week with trackers. And it's one of the most exciting days of my life.
Like, how do you cope with that personal element when you're looking after them?
I cry. I cry. That's my release. And I've had people call me weak because of it, and too emotional. But I'm actually a really strong person, but you have to release it. Anyone who's worked with animals, and certainly anyone who's worked with penguins, because again, I can't emphasize, you could lose them every day. We don't have protocols. We don't know so many things that we know about other animals, and they don't do well in captivity. So when you get this pangolin in, first of all, it's been through hell and back. In many instances, it hasn't been fed, it's dehydrated, it's stress. Stress plays a huge role on them, and it affects first their lungs, and they get pneumonia, they get cold very easily, they've been mishandled. They're very, very shy animals, very, very sensitive animals. Their heart rate goes up quickly. So you're getting these animals under the worst conditions, and then you don't quite know what to do. So emotionally, you have to bond with them 100%. You have to give them your all, because they sense it and they respond to it very, very quickly and very, very, very easily. But it also means that your heart is on the line. So when you lose them, it is, for me, and for certainly those that I know that have done the same work, it's absolutely devastating. Every single pangolin person will tell you that. You feel so useless, you feel so helpless, you feel so unworthy of your work. And others will tell you, yes, but look at all the good that you've done. But in that instance, all you can see is the wrong that you've done, that you didn't save one of them. And, this is an animal that needs saving. It's not a hobby. It's not a thing. It's a passion. It's a calling. It's what you feel has to be done. And losing one is devastating. And then, you will get criticisms. Some people will attack you in ways that are unfathomable sometimes. And I have a hard time with that because I'm not that kind of person. I just live in my little bubble. I'm really happy doing my work. I called myself the happiest woman in the world in Namibia. I had, a home that I had built, and I loved my work and I loved my animals. And that's not always feasible. So now I'm in Nigeria and I'm loving what I'm doing here, but it's been a hard road.
You've created an international organization now. It seems like you're not giving up despite all the obstacles you do face from time to time. So what keeps you going?
What keeps me going is holding a pangolin and getting it back out in the wild. I don't know how to explain it better than that. These are the most fascinating creatures in the world. And I think the way I was raised is you just never give up. I also have very strong faith that what needs to happen will happen and is happening. And a lot of opportunities opened up for me and for pangolins. We're setting precedents now and protocols for a species that I never would have worked with if I had stayed in Namibia. Never in my life would I have considered coming to Nigeria if just one of my pangolins was still surviving or if I still had permits. So maybe this was a way to sort of push me out of my comfort zone, and broaden our work. That's how I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it positively. And that's what keeps me going, because it's watching them go wild again is the best feeling in the world.
Our next stop is Oshakati, where Tunohole Mungoba caught up with teacher Aili Shilongo, who has found joy and hope in assisting and caring for disabled children who have been abandoned by their parents.
Tombono mahatan duta tu ka. Inga, tombono. Multe kunawa? Nami Aili Shilongo. Ondaza pongo diva. Nondiri onkuntu go senda ya dokota fulani sa au pa indong special kia senda. Ngai mwene ondari omrongi arongi ngambo no yo sikisa mo ondato tondere kerama ondaleka onde itoto hazamo ondi amande ondakara nendi na okaha utohewa sasondakara nde kitinga ngashi mkuntu skola handi mono ne mahara tandende ngahondu duete nguno na uyambizwa muno saidro maudi ke kana ke konje he gumbo ka ke dime gumbo so tandi ko sakati andi pitipo ne auto kano pokeri so tandi garu kana tanka no pokeri umangane ekimbungino ndiri pokwa ndi longo ngane achike sondaka zamo ochima sono cheke yanje andora antu mbano yo yeringe yaka natanga amtungo no kwara eri saso ponjira kwa apwendo ngandi ai osopara inasopara mtaka leringino okopara eringana ndomu yakwao eringa mu grupa he yafana ndiye kuje musimana mtaka ninga osho no mayo bigari nambali ndakato tane pakatano sendanjino ngeno tuhitote mabigari no nahimu tutote osenda haya mbiri hanurema paive shone ini makai kara iri kumwe mama vigari no mrongo pakatamikane tutatamiko tatamikeno kana na kamusi pakandangane mo vigari nambari na imwe tatutura upura tatuitseisa kuja tatu pahara osikora hayambirizo hanurema osenda hanurema ashike pakatamika utamono para gumwe mu Januari masiko mrongo ga Januari tamona kana kamu kana hono ne tatamike tatimo tate yakopo ha Stefanare maheriko ipo pasangane o tatuziku kumomono tatu hipo kumeka kororo pevururuko mokata kamona puno na uyu waru tatu unambono tokala ne sitamona kuti katuniemo antu yanure mitaende otakusike kuno nambono wa hawike eskola mbono kuti aya tatu ningi opri no kinda anu mbono ya mbyadi kwa hawike eskola kiviri no viri na yaronga apate transporta ike pose po takano kudone ne wa kucha pumei ba mfono puna na pili ya antu yomwe motaku yandu mochaka tupanyora na namba pila ko benduka hakamona hapo pia kucha tatu ningo senda hayambirizwa mokuzako etumuro mtu ya yitu ye mukambo emo mochakati ando ya ta kongono sendanjo ya dane tuli mumwe na nairi nawa na nambuka yanu yema takuti wane ya ina kuningo chigongi opo antu ingo tachitopoka mumwe nenge otatu akara itarongerwa mumu antu yatokora kucha yeshe avaro ya yeshe otati mbano ya yeri na otati auro na otota urongwa nao yombe akasopea pandaro ngimbo yombano ya anu ile motata aye ngoya rongo eri mumwe otaka kama kombinga himu na ochimana chitopoke no pata porwa ne shashirara kanondo yetu ne urukiro yetu o senda hanu lema no pazi mpono tunane o senda lino hayambirizo o aronga nao sawa ningingaho sawa ningingaho waronga nao ashike otara umsinda tara umsinda mko changino tara umsinda okaimango keri monka kamsinda ka changino mukando totunga ito hipiti ndeto heta tareni shimae ngo wachangino toto nikenga keri waramu jaha ote ya hamena kakonda kumba kehu ache o roteha na otondi mai ngaho ngo keringa ha dengo wakingina no msinda muno wafuka ubite kona wa ya ubita ngani uka chesi ngonjira sinda ungi nao ndandi aliye sanga ngwani ngani nao ubite onde nureke ngomoreke ubite sawara wani ngombe babira we haye nao andi alikureke tati nduna yaro ina ngai ko sibo hunde to yara sibo warandura ngasi warongoro tara warandura ngasi ndiwo yenji ngokita tubona ndokuga humbata yo osenda njino andora oyo osenda ando hikale hanurema ana urema kakushendu mwazi ngashimbana takutwa mbeyaka ngashiyeri kongudia kutota tani ngoseidrom anurema antu yamwe kaunge ya weteko kucha urema mbono ya mota ta hepane ta esiro simbu yao kaisha wanambira mumagumbo onke otuna uzigu mbono ta utuningine shutu hinangino otuna uzigu yambura posenda yakaranga yayoroka kwinange nguru tadi ngwanga izo kukara nurema da njuka ne kara sadiri nawa nini mayo kurongisa no kurongisa ngata arongwa tarongwa ndironga yo kenyara yo taningi ini mike iringaho mushigwana chipando chube konga kucha osenda hitamunuke ko mtukesha itahitamunwa kwangwe ina ndota itahuvika ko mtukesha evute kucha esiro henda nyono anurema yena ujo kwitamuna kwa rusenda taikara hayambukapo merongo migironga ikasha batavuru no mirongo ngoruka komeso yawa pena tangu ya komeso otapumbo mirambo otapumbwa utemba ongambo taukopiwa tautanyula muo tautegerera utapumbwa utemba ne utapumbwa ikwasithorongo so utapumbwa ideulisi so utapumbwa natango ikuya so utapumbwa omizaro natango nambuno haukwata maserikano 50 mokata muzi avali yamwe harongo takambada tanyanga dasa twatu yarombo kuchinde mukanyanga dale nimufutira uno naweni opanironga yamone onjambi anonina antu mbono takanyanga dala yakweze koko maserikano 50 achiyaningira natango chidziwo mukuzareka unona mukuzareka iki ukishaka ukamadi wangu tekagweza utekazareke kuno kukazareka mwashamo noke pangero ndeita chibwana onke utakumbwarira yambizo ta Samaria na ntimahenda yetu yambize ngami kuya na mamizaro na minambo mono na mini mara ishe mpumbo osikora keshe chimwe chapumba pasenda amatarashe embete keshi mwe ngweno firiza hapwa uneno toharike ngweno firiza hapwa ongweno manyite urongisa wa unambono ongwene iterirongisa eviterukisa utapumbikini maisha utapumbini maisha utapumbes zopi onde nikezo mbono iterirongisa nezikisa okwapum ipereki ipirangi keshi mwe shatenya tate kauka utapumba ini mairi ngaho mama kadonamo mbitezo noda kadonado ofiriza itujino hasa happy twatende naito shinde lo happy hirongo uno no unjine hai Habati pero te amo mira poste no va a ser nada igual ¿cómo me llamas yo? Una baramba así como baramba no ni la mama ti no ni la ni un poco de omniro ganji uno nambono amati habera unene uno nambono amati uno unji uno mlongo mutatu manga kadona oyo ya hakumagu aliko na vieke okuza mu Christmas naye apasike kamuki ya uhara ne devi matara sala hada mutasinga no ataranga no okoni hadi tula pevi oshoka opoyaze konupu ya heko moni ya kai kuko ya ko foto foto kutana nikera kwa kuko wale sote ya mano